guys, the first thing I'm going to show you here is our website, because I think there's some good information you'll be able to glean from here. If you go to earnest.com, EARNNEST, make sure you put the 2 N's in there. Otherwise, it'll take you to an entirely different website. There's 2 things I want to point out here for you. Number one, I want to take you to our agent page. This is where you would download our app. So if you look here up at the very top of the right-hand side, that says agent, you're going to click there. And then it says here, get app and webinar registration. So both of these things are very valuable information. So the get app, if you click on that, it'll take you down here and you can download our app for free. It doesn't cost you anything to download or use. And depending on the type of device you're using, you can choose from one of these 2 places to download it. And then if we come back up here to the top, webinar registration. This is for something that would be good for later on if you need a refresher after this quick demonstration on how to use Earnest. You can go in here and choose different platforms, whether it's .loop or through our app, and you can choose different dates on when you want to watch our little 15-minute recording. And then with those, if you're choosing a specific date, it will give you the ability to put a question in there, and you can watch or you can ask a question and somebody live from Earnest will respond. And then the last thing I'll point out on the website here, let me just go back. Is our FAQ page. This is a great place to answer questions for you about Earnest. So it'll load here just a second. So you've got 5 different categories here: real estate agents, home buyers, escrow holders, Earnest payments, and then the security aspect of it. Make sure you take a look at all of this. Again, I'll send out an email and then they can just forward this to you guys with a link to these areas, but I just wanted to point them out to you and show you the website. So that's everything I needed to show you there on the website. What we'll do now is I'm going to take you to our partner page. And I'm going to show you a quick video showing you how to use Earnest through .loop. This is how you place a request through the platform. And if you, it'll state this in the presentation, but if you already have your contract inside a loop, it will carry a lot of that information over for you. But we'll go ahead and play that video now and pull that up here.
Inside your loop, click Send Earnest Request. When you first open Earnest, you will be prompted to sign in. Enter your email address. This will initiate a one-time use code to be sent to the email address you provided. You don't have to store or remember a password with Earnest. Once you receive the code, enter it here and click Continue. To finish account setup, just type in your name and phone number and click Create. If this is your first time logging in, you'll see a quick overview of how to make your first request. Click Start a Payment Request. As the buyer's agent, you'll confirm that you have the email address of the person who is paying and click Continue. If you've written your contract within .loop, the form will pre-populate with your buyer's name, email, phone number, earnest money amount, and the property address. If you have not written your contract within .loop, you can manually fill in any pieces of missing information. Next, you'll use our Smart Search filter to find your escrow holder. Earnest contains a closed network of carefully vetted escrow holders, so you can be assured that your buyer's earnest money will go to the correct, secure account. Type in the name of your escrow holder. The populating options are filtered by the name you type and the property address that you've entered. Select the correct account and confirm that the escrow holder is listed on the purchase contract. Notice that Earnest keeps all parties informed of the earnest money status using our custom notification receipts. You, the buyer, and the escrow holder will receive receipts as soon as the buyer completes their earnest money payment. Confirm that you have a fully executed contract before you make your request. And that's it. You're ready to send your secure digital earnest money request. Now,
All right, guys, let me come back here. Was everybody able to see that? Okay. All right. So any questions around the dot loop side of things? It's a short video, but it really is short in doing that. You literally just click within your loop up at the top right-hand corner. It will give you an Earnest icon that you can click on. And then, like I said, it pulls most of that information into the loop that you've already created. And then just those couple of steps there, and you can submit your request. Of course, it's all going to make more sense here in a moment because I am going to show you what the buyer actually sees once you submit a request to them. But I did want to go over that with you briefly. So any questions about that initially? Okay. Okay. So what we'll do, I'm going to pull up now for you guys. I'm going to pull up our app so you can see what that looks like. So I'm going to change my screen here just a little bit. Now, this is what it looks like for you when you download our app from our website. Again, it's free for you to use and download and put on your phone. So when you put this on the phone, you'll see this little icon here. It says Earnest. And what we'll do, we'll just put in a quick request for you, showing you what that looks like. So click on this here. And now keep in mind with Earnest, there's two things that we really focus on, and that is security and convenience. That's why we were created, essentially, because nowadays you're seeing with wire transfers, there's an increasing amount of fraud occurring. And with checks, they're just not as convenient, and they're not being used as often. You'll have some clients, I'm sure you've had some clients who said, I don't use checks. And so that just made it a little bit more interesting. But with this, you don't have to have checks. You don't send it through as a wire transfer. It's all done through the bank security level ACH system. And so it's a very, very secure method of payment. But here we go. When you sign in, it doesn't show this with the demo, but I do want to point this out. Whenever you sign in, it's going to ask you for a two-step verification process. We do not use passwords here at Earnest. Passwords are easily forgotten or stolen. And I know if you have any tendencies like me, I tend to use passwords more than once for different platforms, and that's never a good thing. That just ends up creating more instability and more likelihood that your information can be stolen. So we don't use passwords. We use this two-step verification process. Basically, you'll put in your email address, and when you put in your email address, it creates a 6-digit code that gets sent to your email. And then you just plug that 6-digit code in, and that will log you in whenever you're using Earnest. That happens with the buyer and with anyone who's submitting a request. So no passwords whatsoever. So this is our app. Point out a few things for you here real quick. First off, if you look up here at the very top, there's 3 little bars here. This gives you a lot of information. Specifically, what I wanted to point out to you is this information down here that says support. If you need to contact us, you're always welcome to give us a call. Earnest is available from 8 o'clock Eastern time till 8 o'clock at night Eastern time, Monday through Friday. So you can always contact us. You're always welcome to contact me. Again, I'll be sending my information out here via email. You guys will get that from leadership. But feel free to contact either me or my support team if you ever have any questions. So up here at the top, you're going to see 3 categories. You've got your active, inactive, and deposited. Now that should make sense, but I'll just clarify that here. Active are requests that have been placed. We call these individual property cards down here. If they're active, that means they're in process of being completely paid. The request has been made, maybe the buyer hasn't gone in and completed it yet, or maybe they have and the money's on the way to the escrow account. Inactive are ones where the contract maybe fell through and they're just not going to go forward with that current property address. And then up here, the deposited, those are ones that are fully completed. They've been, the money's been sent by the buyer and it's reached the escrow account and it's available funds at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a quick request. So if you look down here at the very bottom of the screen, it says request payments. We're going to click on that. It gives you some information about Earnest here. We're going to click begin. And then very important question it asks here, says, do you have the email address of the person that is paying? Now, generally speaking, we're assuming if you are the buyer's agent, you're going to have the email address of the buyer. If you are the listing agent, you may or may not have that, and that is still okay. We have created workflows for both opportunities. What it does basically, I'm just going to click on the yes for today, but let's say you clicked on no down there at the bottom. What that would do is essentially it just adds one extra step to the process. And what it does is it sends the email to, in this case, probably the buyer's agent, who would be filling in any missing pieces of information, namely the email address of the buyer. But if you have the email address, no big deal. You can skip that entire step and we'll just click yes at the beginning and click begin. And then this is where we choose the property address. Now we do use Google Maps. So if you start typing in any part of the address, it should pull that address up for you. No problem at all. If it's a more customized address, no problem. You can just continue typing that in. Just make sure you have the right address in there and put that in for you there. Now today I'm just using 100 North Main Street because this is just a demo environment. So we'll click there and we're going to click confirm address. And then this is where you put in your dollar amount for the earnest money payment. So I'm going to put in $2,000. Just for example. Now you can go up to $100,000 with this particular payment method. If you happen to have one, which it's rare, but if you happen to have one that is over $100,000, you can submit it as two separate requests. But it does give you that ability to do so. Just keep in mind, if it's over $100,000, you need to submit it as a second request. All right, we're going to click continue. And then it says, what's the payer's email address? So this is where you're going to type in their email address if you have it. I'm going to put in my email address because I want to be able to show you guys what these requests look like. So I'm going to put that in here. I'm just going to modify my email just a little bit. And this is where you're going to choose your escrow holder. So you guys in our system are listed as Keller Williams Realty Tuscaloosa or Keller Williams Tuscaloosa. Now we do use smart search. So if you were just to type in Tuscaloosa here, it would pull you up and be able to select from the list there that your company. Very much like, for example, Netflix. Netflix uses a smart search. I'm sure most of you are familiar with how that works. If you were to type in any portion of the name of the title, it'll pull it up based on that word or words that you use. Same thing here. It'll do the same thing. Now, again, since we're in the demo environment, I cannot pull up Tuscaloosa, but I am going to put in MC demo title for an example here. And then next it's going to ask you, who do you want to add as a receipt recipient? Now, let me explain a little bit here for you. Anytime you submit a request, by default, there's going to be 3 individuals who get the first receipt. That receipt goes by default to the buyer, the individual making the request, and then the escrow holder. So that's where it goes to by default. Now, there's a second receipt that goes out when the money is actually fully deposited. Typically, that's about 1 to 3 business days from when the buyer hits send on their end. But of course, that first receipt is like you were taking a check to the bank and depositing it. You still get a receipt for that, even though with a check, typically it's about 3 to 5 business days before it actually clears the bank. But like I said, in about 1 to 3 business days is the average time here, depending on that's being used. And so a very fast time frame there. But again, that first receipt goes out as soon as they make the first payment, goes default to those 3 individuals. If you needed to add someone to the receipt recipients, you could do that here. So if you had like a lender you wanted to add, or you wanted to add another partner to the transaction, this is where you would go about doing that, and they would get that first receipt. But today, for just this example, we're going to use, we're just going to go with the standard. So I'll click finish setup. And then this is where you'll review all of your information really quickly to make sure it all looks accurate. If it does, what you're going to end up doing is just go down here at the bottom and click swipe. If you needed to change anything, you could just click on that pencil that was on the right-hand side and update that information from there. And very important to note here as well, we're going to consider you guys as the experts for these types of transactions. So we do notate, and you'll see this coming up here with the buyer side of things, that we are going to stress that if there is anything that needs to be updated in the request, maybe there was a typo or what have you, they are to contact the real estate agent, and then you can just update it from your request, and it will be just updated from there, and they can reestablish it. All right, and then let me just show you real quick here. Once you've submitted a request, what we call a property card, the nice thing about the app is it does give you very detailed information about where you are in the transaction. So if you notice here, and this is going to make more sense here in a moment with the payer, but it'll show when it's been accepted, when their identity has been confirmed, their bank verified, and then the payment has been authorized, and then when it's cleared and deposited into the account. And then up here at the top, if you needed to rescind it, maybe you needed to make some changes, this is where you would do that. If you need to delete it altogether, you can click on this little trash can up at the top. So in a nutshell, guys, that is the entire request side, seeing it through .loop and seeing it through our phone app. Anybody have any questions at this point in the transaction? Yes.
Yes. When you log in, the email verification, is that every time you open the app or just the first time?
Yeah, so every time that you log in, it's going to have you put in your email address, and it very quickly sends you that 6-digit code. So it's just a 2-step verification process to get you logged back in. You can sync it up with your phone, however. So if you wanted to do it like that, it'll log you in with, I believe it's with the Face ID you can use as well.
Okay.
Any other questions? And feel free to go ahead and download our app from your phone while we're doing all this. If you have any questions, you can do that. We can address those while we're here, but just go to earnest.com and then click agent at the top if you so desire. All right, guys, so let me show you now. I'm going to stop sharing here for just a second. And we're going to look at email here. So I want to show you what these requests look like. Bear with me just a moment. Okay. All right, guys, so you should be seeing my email now. Is that correct? Okay. So now let me show you what the request looks like. Here we go with that request. And it just says here, you've been requested by, and it's going to have the agent's name, to pay $2,000 in earnest money for property address 100 North Main Street, Greenville. That's where we're located here. It's going to have some more information about Earnest, talks about our security and transparency, and then again, information to contact us if they have any questions. And by all means, if you have a buyer that's needing additional help, please feel free to send them our way. We are more than happy to speak with them and walk them through the process. Incidentally, with the request and with the buyer side, it's a very quick process. It takes a little bit longer when you're explaining it, but for just purposes of clicking and typing in information, it usually ends up being somewhere in that 3 to 4 minute range as far as typing in everything. So it's a very quick process, and sometimes even quicker than that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do show you what the buyer sees on their end, because I want to be able for you to see a full picture so you know what everything looks like. I think that's very helpful, at least for me it is, to be able to see the whole process through. So what we're going to do is I'm going to click here where it says pay earnest money. Now I'm going to do it through our incognito mode. Ignore that, please. That has nothing to do with what they actually do. This is just because this is the demo world for me. And if I don't do it as that, it will still recognize me as the one making the request, and it gets all confused. So that's the reason I'm doing that here. Now, when they click on that, it's going to direct them to our secure site where they make their payment. This is going to show you what it looks like to sign in with our two-step verification process. All right, so we've got that put in. And then I need to go into my email, which it should be generating a code here very quickly. So it did. We're going to grab that code real fast here. Come back down here to the bottom, go back in. And that's all that is with the two-step verification process. All right, so again, we've handed the baton off now to the buyer. So I'm just going to put in buyer's information here. We'll put in, now some of it auto-populates. We've already got the email address. I'm going to put in a phone number. And then it's going to pull up everything that we need in order to complete this process. So right off the bat, again, we're going to present them with the property address, who the escrow holder is, and the earnest money amount. And it says here at the top, if this information is not correct, please contact your agent, ask for an updated payment request. So again, we know you guys are the experts in this. You know the information that needs to be here. So they're going to contact you guys if there's anything that doesn't look right here. All right, everything looks good to me, so we're going to click this is correct. And then we're going to do two things here. We're going to confirm their identity, and we're going to verify their banking information. But let me just point out, this is where we introduce the only way that we monetize our service. Again, escrow holders and agents do not pay anything to use this. We monetize our service through a flat $15 processing fee to the buyer, which comes out when they make their payment. It's less than most wire transfers. Certainly more convenient, more secure. They don't have to go to a bank. Literally anywhere that you have access to internet, you can finish this request, make your payment as such. But we do introduce that fee here. Again, it's a flat fee, so that never changes based on the dollar amount. It can be up to $100,000. Still going to be a flat $15 fee. All right, so we're going to confirm identity. Now, let me point out here, guys, we are not doing a background check. All we're doing is confirming their identification using basic information that is public. So that's all we're doing here. We're going to make sure that that is matching up with what we find on the internet. And so just to make the transaction more secure. So they're going to plug in a couple of pieces of info here. Current address, and then submit. And if everything matches up, we're going to get a green check mark, which we did. And then we're going to verify their banking information. Now, this is where we introduce Plaid. Now, don't let that scare you. Plaid is our partner that we use to be able to transfer money from point A to point B. We do not hold the money ourselves. We are just facilitating that transfer from their bank account to the escrow holder directly. And the way that we do that is by using Plaid. Plaid, you may not have heard that name, but if you've ever heard of Venmo, you have heard of Plaid. They use the same partner there. So we're going to click Use Plaid. And because we're using Plaid, we have access to 13,000 banks in our network. And that gives us the ability to simply have them sign in with their bank information. And I'll show you how that works here in a moment. If for some reason they are not part of those 13,000 banks, maybe they have a smaller bank and it's not in our system as of yet, that's okay, no problem at all. All they've got to do is put in their routing number and account number, and we'll give them the ability to make the payment. The only difference is it will add about 24 hours to the process, because what we end up having to do is just send them some micro deposits. Those usually take about 24 hours to deposit into their account. They'll have to confirm them to establish the link, and then they can complete their payment. But again, that's not a typical thing. About 94, 95% of the banks out there are already on our system with Plaid, and so they will be able to skip that process. All right, so we're going to use Wells Fargo today, and we're going to put in our banking credentials. Now, let me point out here, guys, we do not store banking information at all. If someone were to try to get this information from Earnest, they would not be able to do so because we do not store it. We could get a one-time access in here through tokenization to be able to, again, facilitate that transfer, but we do not store their information. So it is a completely safe option for them to be able to use. We're going to log in here. And then it's going to show us any bank account that is with the bank that they chose. I wish this was my account. Unfortunately, this is just a imaginary account, but we're going to use that today for the example. And we're going to click on that. Now, if there was another account here, you could choose from either account and choose that account that you wanted to use with Wells Fargo, but we just have the one for this demo purpose. Click continue. Everything looks good there. We're going to click review and pay. Make sure all of that looks accurate still. Sure does. And then it's going to say, congratulations, you made your payment. All right, guys. The last part of this is to show you what it looks like when they get their receipt. But what questions do y'all have at this point? I don't want to jump the gun. So let me know what questions y'all have in regards to the buyer finishing this process out. No questions? It's pretty self-explanatory, but if there were any questions, I'm happy to entertain those. All right. So let me show you now at the end and show you what our receipts look like. And again, this receipt will go out to, by default, oops. It's going to go by default to the buyer, the buyer's agent, or the individual making the request, and to the escrow holder. So this is what they're going to see. This is that first receipt, and it shows here Matthew has authorized payment of $2,000 in earnest money to MC Demo Title for property at 100 North Main Street, Greenville. Please allow 1 to 3 business days for this payment to initiate, clear, and settle. If you have any feedback, and that gives you some information to contact Earnest. Down here at the bottom, it's going to give you more details about it. The ACH payment, who the requester is, who the payer is, the amount, where it's going, the date it was authorized, and all of that information there. And then if you needed to download it as a PDF receipt, you can download it here, and it will give you the option to have that saved as a PDF, which it will look like that right there. All right, guys. Well, listen, that's everything I have for you today. Just showing you what that looks like through the process. Again, I'll send out those particular links that we talked about to your management team. They can get that sent out to you guys. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. Glad to walk you through the process and give you any help that you need there. Okay? All right, guys.